Welcome to my downfall every year. I decided to do this because there's a horror community out there that loves to talk about horror movies, and I'm a pussy and don't want to talk about them. Instead of being scared to death, this time, arguably, I was bored to death. No offense to everybody here, but most offense to everybody here. We're talking about a great film today. A great film and 5 other films that people wanted me to watch. For some reason, I can't wait to get into that group discussion. Mark is back. Scott's supposed to be here. Scott said deuces. He has a trios match happening at the same time, which me and you both saw that, and we could have been like, ugh, but we didn't. So he's gone. What'd you bring? How are you? Yeah.
I'm doing pretty good. I just wanted to bring it's a horror movie I watch every year. Honestly, I watch this entire franchise every single year. I just can't get enough of it. It's so fun. Brought on Final Destination 3.
Not Final Destination 1, not Final Destination 3. And I did watch all 3 leading up to this because of my...
You didn't have to. You did not have to. The most unnecessary watch ever. But
no, whatever. I had to because there is definitely lore that connects all 3 of those. So you're a liar.
It was explained in 3 seconds.
But to help you out, I did not watch 4 or 5, so I stopped. I jumped off the roller coaster of love, how some people would say. Next up, Kirk. Kirk, I don't take you as the traditional horror guy, but I think you lean towards liking a lot of horror movies. So how are you, and what'd you bring?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. I picked a movie because I saw what everybody else needed. I said, okay, we need a monster movie. And we should probably have a foreign language movie, not realize at that point that John's pick was also a foreign language movie, and sneak some found footage in there as well. So I went with Troll Hunter.
You said a bunch of things that I disagree with you strongly on, but we'll get there later. We didn't need found footage. I promise you, found footage hasn't been needed in a long time. Next up, the king of horror. I had to get him on here because he watches every shitty horror movie that's ever been made, and then also all the good ones, and has opinions on that. So, John, how are you? What'd you bring?
Cody, doing good. Happy to be here. I usually want to bring a movie that I think is really good, but that people really haven't seen. So I chose Knife Plus Heart, which I know is, at least in the community, respected. I know it's a hard watch. I respect everybody here for watching it. And it's just an underseen movie. So I wanted to get Knife Plus Heart out there for everybody. And I personally like it a lot.
He dropped it in the post. He dropped the poster and I said, "Is this a real movie?" Because the poster looks fake. So Scott Harvey and Zach Ford were supposed to be here, are not here. Scott picked I Saw the TV Glow. Why he picked it? Because it came out in 2024 is what I believe. Because he's a very new release guy, so that's the only reason I would take that he would have picked that. Because I don't know. Other than that, I'm really unsure. Maybe A24. And then The Old Dark House, 1932 is The Old Dark House, because Zach Ford picked that because it came out in 1932. And he believes people need to watch more films from 1932. So that's what that ended up being. I picked the movie that inspired this show, The Exorcist. I remember the first time I watched The Exorcist when I was younger. I waited 20 years later to watch it again. When I watched it, I was like, holy shit, all I want to do is talk about The Exorcist right now, and all people are going to get is a letterbox review of me at 4.5 or 5 stars and be like, that's great, because I couldn't put my words. So I was like, what if I did a show where we all brought movies on and we talked about them in length and made everybody rewatch stuff? Roundtable was born after that. I was going to bring it last year. I decided to wait. I brought it back this year. So happy I did. The first movie we're going to talk about, because we're going to get it out of the way, we're going to get the 2 movies that the people are not here about, just to get them done. I think that's the easiest way to do it, and then we'll move the rest. So I Saw the TV Glow. I want to turn off the television, first of all. Did not like this movie. I don't know what everybody else thought about it, but again, the poster intrigued me because when I saw it come across on everybody's letterbox, it was a new horror release, and I was like, oh, looks interesting. That's about where the curiosity stops for me overall. I think it's an interesting concept, but overall, I think it's a very meh film for me. Did everybody see this movie before it was put on Roundtable, or did you guys watch it for the first time? Anybody?
It was first time for me.
I've seen it before.
So have I. I've seen it before.
So, Kirk, what was your overall thoughts from the first time watch?
I was going to watch this anyway. I had this on my list for October to watch, and I know it just dropped on streaming, and I really liked the. Well, I mean, I was really interested in the last movie the director did, which was We're All Going to the World's Fair. I thought that was a lot of interesting things in that movie, and it was similar to this. If you didn't like this, Cody, you'd probably hate that as well, where it's very much like out there, kind of like a lot of ideas being expressed. This one, it wasn't a terrible movie. I just feel like it had ideas and it had a point to make, but it didn't do it in a way that I thought was incredibly interesting or entertaining. I think visually, it was a really good movie. I think there's a lot of interesting things happening visually. My favorite part about this, it's about a 90s TV show, and they nail John can attest to this. They nail 90s VHS picture quality to a T. So that was a little bit of nostalgia there. And yeah, like I said, it wasn't bad. I think I was like more like you could. I was a little bit bored watching it. But it was. I think the weirdest part for me was Justice Smith played a ninth grader. I thought that was going to be the horror conceit. It was going to be like this body swap movie where a ninth grader turned into 30-year-old Justice Smith. That was kind of weird. And his performance, I haven't seen him in a ton, but his performance was kind of odd. And I think that's what he was going for, but it was a little distracting as well. But yeah, I mean, I'll give you obviously we'll go by rating now, but it wasn't, I wasn't a fan overall.
It was over premise over execution. I think like they came in with the idea of making it interesting, and I think they had that thing. I just think it got lost in the shuffle overall. For me, it wasn't too long, so it's fine. You two watched it before. What was your initial thoughts on it the first time, and then what was it on rewatch? Did it help, improve, or did it stay about the same for you?
Go, Mark.
Oh yeah.
Traditional Mark usually waits. So.
I forgot what I watched. I think it was somewhat early. I think it was like April, May, whatever. Yeah, I liked it then. I just thought it was like just super weird, just really interesting movie. I just remember just being really engaged from minute one, and like a lot of it just kind of has to do with the story progression. Like I just had no idea what was going to happen, and in all honesty, whether it's the movie turns out to be good or bad, they usually is a positive for me. Because I feel like a lot of times I go into a movie and I can kind of tell where the story's going to go. I never knew where the story was going in this one. And it just felt like it kept changing. And I don't know, there's just something about it. It probably has to do with the style. I honestly like both performances, even though, yeah, both of them are, which Kirk brought up Justice Smith. Like Bridget Lundy Payne is older than him somehow, which I think is even funnier. So we got like 30 and a 29-year-old playing like fucking 15-year-olds. Like it's hilarious. But yeah, and I just kind of love how like we just mixed in this like this regular story in with the like this lore to like a 90s TV show. And like, is what we're watching real? Is it fake? Is it in somebody's head? Like, or is it not? And like, what does the ending actually mean? Like, I was really curious about what the ending actually was, and honestly, after watching it again, I still kind of am. Like, I'm still not quite sure what actually happened there at the end. Gotta tell you, like I kind of wish Scott was here talking about this one. I would be really curious. Usually, like when there's a movie that I just don't really, there's a lot of pieces to, and I just can't quite connect it. He usually talks about it and kind of puts things into place for me a little bit. But hey, no, I liked it then, and I honestly, I probably like it a bit more now.
Okay. I also watched We're All Going to the World's Fair, Jane Schoenbrun's first movie, and I absolutely could not stand that movie at all. But I was intrigued. I was like, I would like to see what this director does if they're given like a big budget. And when I heard that A24 was behind their latest film, I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. So I saw it when it opened, and I liked it a lot then. And I was kind of where Mark is now after watching it once. Watching it a second time and being on a show with Aaron J, who talks about this movie nonstop. I've discussed this movie at length, so I could probably take Scott's place for this movie. I think when you watch it and you just play it straight up, that Maddie, Bridget Ledepain's character, or Tara, whoever she is, Tara, you find out. Like, if you just take everything she says as the absolute truth, the movie makes absolute sense. That they are still in the cliffhanger ending of season 5, going into season 6, and that's where the movie takes place in between the seasons. That makes the most sense to me. That Owen is Isabel. And all those scenes where you flash back and he's like wearing a dress and all that stuff, like he really is Isabel. And then it all makes sense to me.
You muted.
I think, yeah, you muted, Cody.
I don't know how I got muted. That's weird. Yeah, I wasn't as much as confusion of how it worked. I felt bored. I don't know how to describe. I just was bored with it, and like I'm not a huge like style over like the plot and stuff. Like they were just going for it on that aspect, and that was fine. It just didn't ring me. That's made. I don't know how everybody feels about the two actors. I don't think they're overly amazing act. Like they didn't draw me in with their performances or anything. Like if this was a Coho review, like Oscar nominations coming, like no, didn't love either performance. Like so there was nothing to really like tap me into it, which I was like. And again, I didn't come in with any preconceived notion because I didn't know anything about this film. I had zero. I didn't see the first director. I don't know anything about that. This one was just I just saw the poster and I didn't have any clue. And I thought it was like some of the stuff they were able to pull off, and I think was very interesting and thing. I just don't know if it was in the right hands. I don't know if that's right or wrong or what I'm saying, but maybe the same premise can be beneficial. But maybe that's kind of what they were going for. They didn't really care. Like they wanted to make their own movie, and that was fine. It was just never going to appeal fully, like go over that bar for me. Anybody? Go ahead.
I wasn't bothered by the ambiguity of it. That's part of kind of what I liked. I liked the fact that you could look at it either way, that she was crazy, and just a total lunatic who got way too obsessed with the TV show, or almost like a Matrix style type. In fact, my daughter came in and watched like 15 minutes of the movie. She's like, is this like the Matrix? So like it has like that kind of like, there's like world behind the world kind of feel to it, which I thought was cool. And I liked the, how the ambiguous ending of where he ended up, and, not so much was she right or wrong, but did he make the right decision in not at least trying to find out, maybe, going down that rabbit hole and seeing, what truth she may have had to offer and how that affected his life. And then I thought that to me was the most interesting part of the movie.
I would say there's also the whole conversation that like the movie is an allegory for the trans experience, which is a conversation I guess none of us can really have. But like it's a conversation that has been had from this film coming out, and there's a lot of literature out there to read about that. And the director could be speaking through the film, so I do believe there's credence to that angle as well. And the last thing I'll mention is the soundtrack is incredible.
Yeah, what was I? The soundtrack is really good. Like, and I do get like that's the one of the aesthetics. Like, they made it feel '90s like VHS, like grainy. Like that's just. I think that's just, I don't know. I thought the TV show hard.
I thought the TV show looked fun. Like I thought, like I was like that was the most interesting thing to me. Was like I would watch a show, like I would watch this. Like it's like Power Rangers meets Doctor Who. Like that's kind of a cool
it's like
thing
TV 14 X Files is what it is.
And the Man in the Moon, the villain, when he actually shows up, that effect was really cool. I really like that.
Yeah, and that storyline of like the trans, like that. I don't have that to reference. If that's in there, like that's awesome for inclusion of that. I just don't. I think it's crazy in 2024 how they can capture it, like the graininess, like you think like things are too powerful at this point, or like too advanced to go back. But it's really cool when they do. Like I was just like, holy crap! Like that's weird. Because we're all like, you guys are older than me and Mark, but we're still from that time where that's how we watch TV and stuff. So it's kind of interesting how that all works. Anything else on this movie before we move on? I don't want to cut it short, but again, I wish I had more to add to this.
Yeah, I'm sure Kirk knows the struggle of like someone taping a show for you and leaving it for you every week. I've also that struggle is real. When I was at college, my parents used to have to tape things and send me the tapes because, like, colleges don't have every, station available. My parents would send me videotapes and things I missed every week. So I believe that's very accurate.
I taped over some episodes of Seinfeld or something, and my dad was quite heated. So it was a time to be alive. Did not want Monday Night Raw recorded. All right, learn that lesson real fast. So we'll get scores, I guess. Neither one you brought it. Two people watched it before, so I'll get your scores first. So, John, what's your score now?
Mine is 4. Like I had it as a 4, but on a rewatch it went up. I'm at a 4.5 on I Saw the TV Glow. I like this movie a lot. There is a huge nostalgia curve to it, so I grant that. But like just watching it, I think when you watch it straightforward and just believe everything you're told, it lands at 4.5.
Okay, Mark.
Could move up a bit right now because I think currently I have it at 16 for the year. Could move up a little bit more. Probably still be like a sub 10 film, but yeah, it's also 4 stars. I really enjoy it. I think the lore in it's really neat, and I was just engaged from minute 1. That was really great.
I'm going to match that energy, just knock it down a few pegs. I'm at 2.5 stars. I give it for substance and quality. Nothing to grab hold of me. And again, horror is probably my lowest of all genres. So at that point, it's had an uphill battle. So 2.5 stars. Kirk.
Like I said, the movie has some things going for it. But ultimately, it's about two people who make a TV show, their entire personality, and it's about they are about as interesting as people who make TV shows their entire personality. So I'm also at 2.5 with this.
Insert Kirk hates movies. Right. Me and him give the same score. Kirk will get more hate for it. Okay. Next movie, The Old Dark House. I'm guessing everybody saw this movie prior. Is that correct?
No, this is the first time I've seen it.
As much as it will upset Zach, I've seen it before.
You have seen it. Okay. So I'm interested. I will say, and this is going to sound completely like, there is something about old, like classic, like when they try to do horror, it comes off 2 ways. Very cheesy as can be. But the aesthetics, for however they do it, is arguably better than some things currently going today. The sound in this movie is better than a lot of films out there. I like the wind, the rain, the thunderstorm that they're dealing with, the creaks of the thing. It just is captured in such a creepy way. Do I find this movie scary? Hell no. There's not an ounce of it that ever freaked me out or scared me. But was I like kind of intrigued the entire time? Yes I was, to see what was going on. So it's something about theirs where they're going to rely more on like the dialogue aspect of it and like the little creepy shadows than actual like scares or good enough plot to scare me that much. But I didn't hate the film. It was quick watch. We were in and out pretty quick in this one, so there was not much time to develop hate or frustration on anything. I think some of the action, as you would call it, or like the intrigue was real bad. But I mean, 30s. I don't know what else besides real fights. What were your guys' takes on it that hadn't seen it prior?
The most stellar fight choreography I've ever. Move over the raid. The Old Dark House would like a word. That fight choreography, 5 stars all by itself. No, the fight choreography. I mean, I don't know. It was like, all right, guys, fight, and it's like it looked like 2 4-year-olds like falling on the ground. That was funny. So it is billed as a horror comedy, but a lot of the comedy I feel is unintentional.
Right.
And there's definitely a lot of what you said, Cody, is like weird line delivery and like weird accents. But the one gigantic positive thing I'll say about the Old Dark House is like how influential the whole concept of like our car broke down on this road and there's this house with these weird fucking people in it. And then think about how many movies have that same exact plot. Like that sounds a lot like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre to me. Does that owe its whole thing to the Old Dark House? You be the judge. I don't know.
Yeah, that premise and everything is like I'm like I always wonder where like those like it happened one night is just literally like every rom-com after is just like, that's what we can do. So I'm like always wanting to know where the start of something happened. And like this is like car parked outside, 700 movies after. Car broke down, let's go to this weird house. Mark, what did you think? You love classic films, so like I'm curious.
You know, I thought it was very fitting that you brought up It Happened One Night because it is true. Like the Old Dark House does have this whole thing. Hey, like every horror movie starts this way. Does it mean the first movie to do it is any good? No, not really. It like so. And here's another case of that. Like, the first one to do it, whatever. It's bad. It sucks. Like, and you mentioned it's a horror comedy. I didn't even know it was a comedy. Like, I was like, okay, I guess trying to have laughs here in the 30, whatever. Like, yeah, it's only an hour 10, but like I was fucking bored to tears for most of it. I got through part of this. I'm like, surely I'm like 50 minutes in. Nope, 25 minutes in. Still a long way to go. Like it just, I don't know, man. Like
That's why I love film because like you on the TV Glow saw the TV Glow. I was intrigued from first second and in and gone. This movie, I was like, I'm intrigued. Boris Karloff, like Charles Laughton's, like I'm going to see where this goes. And you're like, get me the fuck out of this film. Like we couldn't be too farther on two different movies. As soon as I saw Boris Karloff pop up and Charles Laughton, I'm comfortable. How long is this going? I'm going to be because they have a way to deliver lines that I just think is really well. But no, that's funny. I just think how you're like 70 minutes. This thing could have been 60 minutes shorter.
I mean, whatever. I do want to bring up one other thing about like you brought the fight. It reminded me a lot of like that first puppet fight in Team America World Police, where like the puppets are just like dancing around each other, and it's like like, and then like it ends up like one guy staying over. Yeah, like that was kind of like what we got here, in this movie. Yeah, it sucks. It wasn't very good. Was Zach was here, so I can tell him it sucks.
Kirk, you've seen it before. What is your thoughts on
No,
it?
this movie is a lot of pieces that work for me. I mean, James Whale, I really like. Boris Karloff, Charles Laughton. What's the guy's name from Bride of Frankenstein? I was looking it up here. Ernest Theisinger, the guy that plays the brother. Really great. And what I love about it is I read a review on Letterboxd. I can't take credit for this, but it's a great quote. Somebody says it's like reverse Rocky Horror, where the sexy people break down in front of the old house, and it's all the old like tightwads that are living there. But the people in the house are still like the horror movie characters. I love like those like kind of tropes they all like Theisinger's like real like campy like ooh kind of guy with the makeup and the cheekbones, and Karloff just doing like the big monster kind of thing. I just love the dynamic between like those two different groups coming together and having to interact like these very normal British people coming into this was essentially a haunted house, and like in the middle of like their family drama, get involved in that. I thought that was a lot of fun. And you mentioned the atmosphere, Cody. I think it's great. Just the use of just some of the shadows. That scene where they're at dinner and like just those giant shadows are being cast on the wall of everybody sitting in their chairs in the light and the darkness and everything. I mean, it had a real like stagey quality. It basically was like maybe 2 or 3 sets. In the whole movie, but I feel like it was just a lot of fun, and they got a lot out of that minimalism.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. I just love how different. John, did you hate this movie as much as Mark hated it?
I don't hate this movie. No, I appreciate this movie. I also like. There's also that old. It's such like a 1920s, 1930s thing where like this guy just met this girl, but now they're in as much love as they could possibly be, and they're gonna get married. I'm like, man, if I had Riz like that, geez, man, this guy just he's getting this showgirl to just be his wife, and in one night he knocks it out in one night. Get out of here. I had to take my wife out like a whole bunch of times. It's crazy. Unfair.
I don't know what the over-under is on this panel using the word Riz, but I think we hit the over. I think it's 0.5. No, I agree. I think it's hilarious. Like, there was something in the water back then where they're just like, hey, you're mine. Okay? Nothing better coming along? No clue.
I'm a man. You're a woman. We're in this room. What do you say? Like, yes.
Marriage.
And Charles Lawton says, I'm also here.
So nothing in this movie, Mark, worked for you at all?
No, like I just was not in it, man. Like I can't.
You don't like crazy arsonist inserted in the last 15 minutes of the movie? Like, I'm here and I'm going to set fire to things. Like, he's a great character.
Why the fuck wasn't he in it from the beginning, man? Like what? Like why did we wait until like the end to bring him in? Like, oh, there's this crazy guy who's here too. Like I thought, oh, maybe we'll bring up like a ghost, or like this is actually the Hotel California and you can't leave. No, it's just some dumb guy who wants to burn down the house. Whatever.
Zach Ford is big on 32 and those kind of. He is big from the other horror movie. I think he made me watch at one point. His Freaks from 1932. That's a good movie. That's a great movie though.
Yeah.
Better than this for me, but yeah, just something about 32. He's just a big fan of, I guess. Or making
more
me watch
realistic
movies from
characters
32.
and Freaks for sure. Like the characters in Freaks, I relate to. These characters, I do not relate.
Well, I don't know. Charles Lawton is great though. Great guy. Great in this film. Overall, he's a great actor.
No, he is.
Wow.
I've just it just so happens I've been watching a lot of him the past couple months, and just the range he has. He just was he was like the 30s Tom Hardy, where he just kind of like went out and did whatever crazy thing he felt like doing, and or I should say probably Tom Hardy is the 21st century Charles Lawton, is probably more accurate.
Be respectful, yeah.
Yeah, he but just the kind of the things he goes for, and just in roles like this, which is to be kind of like a throwaway role, he's still having a whole lot of fun.
I still think it's hilarious, crazy that he directed one film in his entire time, and it's an absolute
So good,
fantastic film. It's crazy, like man, don't miss. But yeah, you're right. He's in every weird, he can play like real life people, comedies. Like he just bounced around. It's kind of crazy what he was able to do. I guess we'll get ratings because we got other movies to like really discuss and dive into, like the tanning beds and roller coasters coming up soon. You saw it first, Kirk. So what was your rating, and did it change?
No, it did. I don't think it changed. It may have, like, in my opinion, it may have gone up, but my rating's staying the same. It's solid 3.5.
Okay, I'm at 3. If this was back on, I would not be like miserable by any means. It actually, the credits roll, they ended, and I was like, oh, it's over. Okay, that's quick. That's painless. No found footage. Mark, what's your rating? Well, actually, wait, John, what's your rating?
I'm with you, Cody. This is like a 3. It's like right at the edge. Like I like it. It's fine. I'm not gonna necessarily like put it on the top 10 list or anything like that, but it's fine. It's everything about the movie is just perfectly fine, as I'll say plenty of times later.
In the 1932 voice, and here he comes with the gasoline to pour all over it. Mark, what's your rating?
Yeah, I wish the curling season hadn't started so Zach could be here to tell me why I'm wrong. Yeah, I mean, I give it 1 star. Like I just did not enjoy this movie at all. Like I couldn't, man. I don't want to give it 1 star, but like I can't.
Could you understand them?
Huh?
Could you understand them? Could you 1 star? I'm trying to find where's the rating coming from, because I know you can't give zeros, but half was sitting there.
I'm not sure like a half-star movie exists, or like if not, like it wasn't this.
Let's have some conversations later. I can direct you to a few.
I have several you can see.
Yeah, yeah. John for sure has a lot.
Like,
Hey John, hey Mark, guess what? I'm signing you up for a new show on John's channel. Enjoy. You're gonna find a movie that's a half star. All right. Who do I want to yell at first? I don't really want to yell at anybody. I just want to get it out. I'm gonna go with. I think probably well made. Not for me. Knife plus heart. We'll get that right now. We'll talk about that. So
Let me ask you guys first.
sure.
Did anybody else pick up on the gay subtext?
It's very subtle.
Very subtle.
It's very subtle.
If you look close, it's there.
Well, I was going to wonder if this movie has got an alternate title somewhere else called Blowjob the Film, because the amount of head that this movie was given was insane. Like, and I've had more. My office is secluded. I have a door, everything, but the amount of knocks that I got while this movie was on was stunning. And every scene was hard to pause. I'm just hard to pause, so you had to X the whole thing. So, and this was the quickest delete off my watch list, just so my kids didn't stumble upon it. Like, what's Dad watching? This and Troll Hunter, probably not for my kids. Now, Troll Hunter, not even close to this, but I don't need my daughter having nightmares of a giant troll that exists. Or why's the dub off? The version I got was bad. But overall, so did anybody see this movie prior? Yo, you did, Mark, didn't you?
actually, no. This is
Okay.
the first time watch.
I was like, somebody has adapted French horror and he uses a string other than John. His name is Mark Menchaca.
You're using the strength and you haven't seen this? Did you make Jake watch this?
I just had not gotten around to it in a while. I just had not gotten around to this one in the times I used this.
I can't wait to know the trivia that's asked from this movie.
If you can.
Greatest weapon ever introduced in a movie, by the way.
Yeah, right? I don't know how to talk about this film. I don't do well with foreign language to begin with because I have the attention span of a gnat. Mix that with horror. The horror aspect, I was more confused to be scared. To be honest with you, because I understood at the end, like I understand what was happening, but in the time, it was almost like a car crash. A lot of shit was happening. I didn't know which way to look, but I couldn't look away from the thing that was happening. So I want somebody else to take the ball and start talking before I start talking.
Did you want me to do it?
Sure, John, go ahead. John, let's take John. John brought this movie. I maybe he can add some context to some of the stuff that I'm confused.
All right. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can approach this movie, just like these gentlemen approach each other in the movie. But anyway, I'd say it's like a modern French. It's got a lot of giallo kind of influence on it. It's definitely like a murder.
So what does that mean?
Giallo is like an Italian horror style where it's like a murder mystery mixed with a slasher film. It's like probably the easiest way to put it. Like we don't know who the murderer is. We don't know why they're murdering the people. And then usually it resolves in like the killer is unmasked, the motive is shown, and then the killer is undone. So that formula is from like the
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, it's kind of like Scooby-Doo with more blood and just very flashy cinematography and stuff like that. But it's born out of like the late 50s, early 60s Italian horror scene, and it bleeds out. Brian De Palma kind of did a lot of giallo-esque stuff in his repertoire as well. But there's a lot of directors that are influenced by it. This Jan Gonzalez did that more recently here. Basically, it's about the 70s gay pornographic scene in France, and there's a woman who's a lesbian who's a influential director in that scene, but her stars are getting stalked and killed by a killer with a knife spring-loaded dildo, and that happens several times in the film, and then it goes into a lovely giallo land, and all of the oral sex Cody refers to happens. Mark?
Like how you passed it off to me. Like, all right, just set you up. Put a dinger out in the stands, Mark. Yeah, like I said, we've been brought up, I adapted the strength. I was brought on by like a John pulling up the post 70s French word language strength, and honestly, just to get a little bit inside baseball here, I think whenever I usually adapt something to strength, whenever I get it from somebody, it's usually because it's either so bad I have to make it mean something that I watched all of them, or I ended up enjoying more of them than I thought I would. And it is actually the latter. I enjoyed more of these French language horror movies than I usually did. I honestly just didn't get to this one until now. Like, it was kind of tough to get to, and like I would come across a title, I didn't even know what it was, and and at least for trivia purposes, I'm finding I skipped it this whole time because, like, wow, it would have been really tough to like ask stuff about this one. So I'm glad I knocked it off, and like I do like it. Like I'm not gonna say I don't like it, just because like the horror stuff in it, I think, is at least interesting enough. Like all the like the stalking stuff is kind of neat, and especially kind of where we go into kind of some of the pulpy horror kills, like the guy like who just got high like on the couch, like I'm not like where the dildo knife was used, and the knife popped out of the back of his head. Like that was a really great kill. I really enjoyed that. But
my uncle went the same way. It's crazy.
but yeah, like I mean, I think the horror stuff does kind of work somewhat well, and I kind of like that our protagonist is a really bad person. Like they're like honestly pretty irredeemable as a person, and I almost kind of wish they had died to like just to kind of like make it like fit the movie. It's kind of weird. Oh, she's kind of figured it out and she lived at the end, but whatever. I mean, I thought the story was interesting enough. It's just I think the movie's issue, and it's gonna have this issue for anybody who has a first time watch on it, is that it's a lot to take in because it just kind of throws you into the deep end of the pool and just kind of hopes that you're just able to like to tread water there, and like
Are you doing this on purpose?
what
Are you just saying all these like close to like pause words like to make like sexual innuendos the entire time, or are you just doing that, or is it just working out like that way?
I think it's working out. Like
Lot
I'm
to
not
take the first time, and it's just deep. Like I was just wondering if
I
you're
think
doing
the
this
exact
on purpose.
the exact message I sent to Aaron was like, I'm like, if Cody didn't pause his computer and start screaming in the first 3 minutes, I don't know Cody. I don't know him at all.
I didn't pause. Yeah, I did pause. I was like,
Okay.
what the because what? He was like laid down, and then all of a sudden this came out. I was like, because by the poster, I want this on record on the poster. You don't get this from the poster.
It's just her and the bird. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, like spirit, like ghost thing. I don't read synopsis. I don't do any of that. I'm just like, let's go. I was like, whoa. Yeah. So yeah, interesting. I was just making sure you weren't doing it on purpose, because if you listen it back, you were doing a lot of like, wait, you pause. What are you saying right there? Like that's questionable. So just want that on the record. You were just doing that from speech and not making a joke.
It was just a happy accident, I suppose. Like it.
Well, there it is again.
The movie was solid. We'll just say that. That may have been purposeful.
I didn't think I said what the fuck more than when that scene happens where he's well, probably one of the first oral sex is happening, and the guy is in the phone booth calling, and then find out it's like part of the thing or whatever whatever, and then just all over. I was like, oh, what? Where's the whole like? The people are dying, but where's the horror element right now? Because I'm watching gay porn at this point a little bit, like at one point, which to each his own. But I was just like, you're right. It's a lot to take in. It was really confusing for me because you just jump into this world and like she starts to figure out, cool, but I'm like, I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck's happening. So yeah, Kirk, you haven't said much. You love this film?
There was a lot to like. I mean, it had the 70s feel to it that I like. I mean, it just had like the real kind of like Yeah, I mean, just
I
little
didn't
things
feel the 70s at
like
all.
just like the tech, like her in the projector booth with her Kirk cutting it, the rotary phone, just little things like that. The phone booth,
Okay.
just little things like that
The
I pick up.
costumes are definitely
The
70s.
costumes, I was going to mention the costumes. Very much so. I love the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack's really good. Just the look of it, like John said, you see a lot of Giallo influences on it, and that goes for the plot too. Like a hallmark of Giallo is that they can tend to be a little unfocused, and that happens in this movie, especially towards the end, where that's the other thing that happens in a lot of Giallo movies, where just a random person takes over a murder investigation, where just like, oh, you are kind of ancillarily attached to this murder, go investigate and see what you can find out. And like that part towards the end where she goes out in the woods looking for a bird because there was a feather and it's a certain type of bird, and I'm just like, okay, honestly just kind of checked out at that point. At that point I'm just like watching, like looking at the movie.
He did pause. Okay. I was
Yeah.
like, did
Yeah.
I pause?
Yeah, and then she does find the feather. It's funny that the investigator just gives her the evidence too. It's like, we did find this evidence. Take it.
It's just like, go, just run with it. It's what you can do. You're just a regular person. You could handle this. But no, at that point, I don't know how I know I cut out there for a second. I just kind of checked out at that point, and I was just like watching it like visually and like kind of taking it all in that way. But no, I was worried. Like I thought, like when I saw like, oh, gay porn Giallo, I was worried that it would be one of those things like, oh, like it's we're gonna do Giallo, but the gay thing is going to be what makes it edgy. And like it's like I hate when people do it, because like it's 2024. That's not edgy anymore. It's not like cutting edge to but so like, and I don't think they did that. I do think like some of the porn stuff was like purposely salacious and over the top and kind of in your face, but I don't think like that was the only thing in the movie that was like, oh, look, everybody look at this. Everything's so gay. I don't think that was the main point they were trying to make. I think it blended well into the story. Where I mean, I feel like the one thing I feel like a lot of the character, like most of the characters, were like gay male porn actor. Like that was their character. Like there wasn't like a lot of depth to any of them there. But again, I mean that's part and parcel for Giallo movies as well. Like you have certain characters who are kind of just there to like be one note and get killed off. So overall, like I said, I mean I feel like it does feel like an imitation. I was watching like, okay, like this is like that movie and this is like this movie, and not just Giallo. I did see like John mentioned De Palma. I saw that one scene in the club where the girls stand up on the thing felt very Scarface to me, and it might be because the woman looked a little bit like Michelle Pfeiffer, but I feel like there were a lot of influences, and you could see that. And so I mean, it was an imitation, but I think it was a pretty well done imitation.
I don't know. I feel bad, like the trans influence on the one and gay on this one. I'm just like, both not for me. I promise I have no issue with those kind of it. Just didn't work for me. Maybe we picked the two weirder ones for me to just not fall into, but yeah, I don't know. I'm one of those people that I would like I want to care about the people that are dying, to like kind of care about any of this, and I just didn't really. I guess that's the point of the genre. That just makes that genre not really for me, which is not a shocker to most. But I think, like, again, if I would have clicked on this on Letterboxd and saw 1979 gay porn, I was like, okay, that maybe I need to start clicking on some stuff instead of just going in blind, because that's shock value. Like I could make a killing on YouTube with some reactions when I could play on some of these things for the first time. But yeah. Anything else on this? I didn't love a lot of the kills, and I don't know if that's just me. I don't like. I think they were creative. I don't think they were like.
I think they front load all the good kills in this movie, and then it kind of just gets standard towards the end. But
I mean, we stopped
Did you
using
do
the
that on
building
purpose?
rights
Did you do
after
that
that
on
was on
purpose?
purpose. That was on purpose. Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Front loaded. All right, let's get ratings. John,
It's on my front page of Letterboxd for a reason. This is a 5-star movie for me.
no one else saw it first, right? Kirk.
Yeah, like I said, it had a lot going for it. I like the movies that it was influenced by, and the influence I saw better than I like this. But still, like I said, it was well done. So I'm at a 3.
I'm at 2.5. I'm just gonna keep it on the same page. I think there's stuff to like about it. I just maybe rewatch will help. I don't know, but I guarantee. I know Kelly will yell at me for saying that, but like I don't know. Mark,
Yeah, John brought it too, but definitely a fun score from M83. So delighted to see that there whenever I looked it up. Yeah, I had fun with this one. 3.5 out of 5 stars.
I can just hear the trivia question from Adelaide Spence now. What is the weapon that is used to? How specific are you looking for?
We have an answer.
And I'm
Well,
going to delete the channel. I'm going to delete the channel on that note.
Cody, have you seen like a lot of Jello? Have you seen like Argento, Suspiria, stuff like that? If you watch any of that stuff?
Nope.
Okay, I'm just curious how that would compare to you. For you.
No, I haven't. That was the first time here listening and hearing that expression. I didn't know what that was. So
Yeah,
if
this
I
is
did,
like blood and black lace. If it was called Blood and Black Dildo, then that is exactly what this movie is.
fair enough. Probably okay. Alternate title.
Yeah.
I saw all the custom posters too on this one. I'm just like, good lord, Burton holding the dildo with the knife coming out. I'm like, that's a. Melissa. Side tangent. I mean, just watched the movie. I don't even know what the movie was, but I just popped on Letterboxd last night and I just saw tits on the screen. I was like, and then it was Melissa that watched it. I was just like, what? What is this? It's a movie. It just has an alternate poster that she chose, but I was like, good lord, like. I expected it from a lot. It was really just double shocking when I saw it under Melissa. And then apparently it's a really great movie, but I don't remember what the title was. But I do remember the boobs that were right in front of my face. Side tangent. What do we want to talk about? Troll Hunter, or do we want to talk about Final Destination 3?
Host choice.
We'll talk about Troll Hunter. I don't love this movie either. I hate found footage. So this is like an automatic like there is one I think there's one found footage film I like. Oh god, now I can't remember the name. Giant monster going through Cloverfield.
Cloverfield, yes.
Only one I've ever enjoyed, I think. So this was automatic. Like when I saw that camera go into the car, I was like, I'm gonna lose my mind. I didn't know what it was about. I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting film. I hate a shaky cam more than anything because when stuff's happening and we're just bouncing, it drives me crazy. I understand it's supposed to add intensity and everything. It just doesn't. Did anybody see this movie prior to this? Okay. So, Mark, do you like a shaky cam?
I don't hate it, honestly. Like, I find at least the found footage genre kind of fascinating, just in terms of like how it exists. And there's something about found footage movies and like also we'll talk about it later, and like kind of like demon movies like that I just kind of can't get enough of. Like I'll watch anyone that what the fuck is that? I'll watch like anyone that like kind of like it's kind of interesting. I'll watch like even the bad ones. Like I've watched most of those Paranormal Activity movies. Like you know, so like I was at least kind of delighted. Like I didn't even know that Troll Hunter was a found footage movie. Like I had been aware of it for years. I never got around to it. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and yeah, like I did like this movie too. I thought it was pretty solid. I think it kind of incorporates, I think, a lot of the what could be interesting elements to like found footage movies, just in the sense of it's kind of normal people doing a seemingly normal thing, and then they just kind of get thrust into just an extraordinary situation, and we just kind of see them have to adapt and deal with it, and kind of from that moment on, just a bunch of like out of nowhere shit just kind of happens, and we just kind of roll with it. Like it's kind of the one time where I feel like us as just viewers just kind of let go of reality and just kind of let go of kind of the stuff that should happen. We just kind of accept anything that happens from then on. And I do think a lot of this was pretty fun. I thought like a lot of all the monster scenes were really neat. I also think it's also, even though like we're going out and fighting trolls, like there does seem to be like some stakes in this movie. Like even like the ending doesn't have like a super cheery end to it. Like I have been a sort of fan of like this director Andre Overdahl. Like I thought he's made some interesting movies in the past. I'm a big defender of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I like that movie a lot. Almost picked for this panel. Maybe next Halloween panel will probably get picked. But yeah, like I liked it. That was fun.
That poster freaks me out, so I don't want to see that. No, thank you. You two. Well, John, you've watched it before. What's your take on it?
I'm a huge like Scandinavian horror like supporter. So when a movie comes from Sweden, Norway, Finland, I'm like, let's go. But I think, and just not to defend found footage, but I think in found footage you have like two different kinds of found footage movies. You have movies where like the characters are filmmakers, like this movie, and then movies like some idiot has a camcorder. I think when the movies where the characters are filmmakers, you get a lot less shaky cam because it's being presented as like a documentary. So your percentage of shots that are shaky versus like well shot are good. So this is one of those found footage movies, and you only really get shaky cam when like things fall out of place and they're hiding from the trolls. And for a found footage movie, on like not like a huge budget movie, the trolls look really good for like CGI put into found footage. It's like really really well done. And I will also second Andre Overdahl. Pretty much has all hits across the board for me.
You think the trolls look good?
Compared to like what? Compared to like something that's like compared to Dune? No. For a found footage movie that came out like 15 years ago, yeah.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Kirk, why this is I know you like this film. I've heard you talk about this film before.
Mhm.
Every time I see it pop up and you're attached to it, shocks the shit out of me. So, but it shouldn't, because
No.
you will like this kind of films, but it still doesn't make sense to me.
There's so much in this movie that works for me. I mean, one of my favorite things you can do in any media, whether it's movies, TV show, comic books, is take a fantasy or a mythological idea and inject it with a good shot of banality. And that's what this does. Basically, the titular troll hunter in this movie is a burnout government employee, and he goes out and he it's his job. There's like just like this really inept government department whose job it is to keep trolls a secret. It's his job to kill them, and he's just over it. And that's why he's letting these kids film, because he just doesn't give a crap anymore. And it's so much fun. Like there's a lot of comedy to it that it took me a while to get, just because it is in a foreign language to catch it. But it does have like there are parts of it that are almost like an Office or a Parks and Rec type of feel, where just people like, oh my god, I have to deal with these idiots day to day doing my job. And you just have a lot of like these like inept government bureaucrats who are doing a really poor job. Like they build. At one point in the movie, you see that they build power lines. The pretense is that they built these power lines as power lines, but they're really electric fences to keep the trolls out. And they go in and they're talking to the guy that runs the power plant, and they're looking at a map of the power lines, and like, well, where do these power lines go? And they're looking like they just go in a circle. And the guy the guy that runs the power plant's like, oh yeah, that's true. And they're like, well, don't you think that's weird? They don't go anywhere. And he's like, well, they do go somewhere. They go in the circle. So just a lot of like just stupidity like that built into like this. So it's very much steeped in Scandinavian and Norwegian folklore, and I think there's a lot in there that's very much derived from that, which is a lot of fun. I love just Norway as a setting. I just love how it looks. I love the language. I love how it sounds. I love the tone of it. I know, Cody, you said you got a bad dub. I couldn't even imagine watching this movie dub because I think just like the original language sounds so great, and especially the Hans the Troll Hunter. I just love the sound of his voice. I think he's a really great character. So yeah, I think there's just so much in here that's it's a lot of fun, and I think the effects are great. I did get to see this the first time I ever saw it was on a big screen, which really helped with the scale and everything. Another thing I love is kaiju and giant monsters, and just seeing that scale of a little person next to a giant monster. I think there's a lot of really cool scenes, and I think that one of the things about found footage is it lends itself to it covers up a multitude of sins special effects wise because you have bad lighting, you have shaky cam, so you're not never getting an exact great picture of what you're looking at. But I do still think if you look, I was watching the some behind the scenes special effects stuff, and the detail that you do have in the trolls that maybe you didn't know you wouldn't notice on a first watch or just at a glance, but just the growth on them and how they're built to be camouflaged into the environment and things like that. I think there's a lot of detail there, so I really like the way they look. So yeah, and I found footage. I'm a sucker for found footage too. I know I understand not being in love with that cinematography style. It makes sense to be annoyed by that. So I'm not going to say anything bad about anybody who says that, but I do think when the conceit is used correctly, you can do a lot of fun things with it.
Yeah, well, I will say is like I hate all found footage most of the time, but there's a degree of worse and like bad and good. Like, sure, I think this leans closer to like the best shaky cam I've seen, or found footage. I shouldn't use shaky because it's not all shaky, but um, that's what it is. I don't. I said it to John earlier. It's the wrong person to say it to because of the stuff he's seen in the special effects and horror movies that he's actually watched. Like these trolls look like what Citizen Kane is to film. Like so, he's seen the worst of the worst. I think they look bad overall, but like again, I don't know where the level of like their budget can't be that high. Obviously, um,
When you say you look bad, do you not like the design, or are you saying they look fake?
they look really fake, like really
Okay.
bad. But I understand, like you're working with there's no real trolls, so you can't cast them. So that's just a minor nitpick. But that wasn't what took me out of it. I honestly like. I don't like this. I don't like the style of how the film was made, but I like the characters that were in. I watched about an hour. I watched about 45 minutes with this terrible fucking dub that I found, or watched where I just clicked on Movie Box and it was there. So then I seeked out the actual like non-dubbed and started it again. And sure, I understood some jokes a little bit better on the first 35 when it came back to it. But it was interesting of where it was going. So I wasn't like miserable the entire time. I like going in the like what I wish it was shot different. Like I think this movie works really, really well for me if it's just shot different and not just a nitpick. But overall, I didn't have a miserable time because I think the character interactions with each other like made it funny. Like these young people trying to like find like go on to his with a grizzled old like I don't give a fuck anymore. Like checked out just works. That balance works. So overall, I didn't have a miserable time at all with it. I just there was stuff like it feels like a grumpy old man, like like just wants to bitch, right? Because it's under found footage, so everything fucking sucks. Things are miserable. Like that's just how I want to be because they decided to make this kind of footage. Um, and we can go wherever. I do. I really enjoyed the bridge scene. Because I mean, it was just really funny to me. Just overall, like like if it was close as like Monty Python like level armor like on this guy just like sitting there and just see this hand coming back like and he just walked towards it like he then got picked up. It was just a weird cycle, but I overall enjoyed that.
When he got
that scene.
ragdolled, that was fun.
Yeah, or just like and then like bit or like put somewhere, and then it's like metal just stopped him and it's like, you okay? What the fuck do you think? Not really. Like can't feel me feeling great. So overall, I didn't hate it, didn't love it, but it definitely worked in this aspect. They do the suspense pretty well in this film, but I think that's what you get a little bit from Shaky Cam. But also, like, I don't want to be in someone's pocket or like looking down when shit's going on. I understand, like,
It's
I want to
it's
see.
a double-edged sword there, because I feel like you want to be looking at everything, but there's certain times when like the camera's focused and you're seeing all the actions. Like, why are you recording this? Like, this is not a time you should be holding the camera and just watching what's going on. But at the same time, when they realistically put the camera down and you're just looking at the ground because something else going on, I was like, I want to see what's happening. Put the camera up. So it's like you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Right. Anything else on this film? I don't want to stop it if we want to talk about.
I also really like the character development. I feel like and I picked up on this more this time watching it. Like, just the relationship that kind of builds. Like, at the very beginning, he's obviously like, "Get out of here, don't bother me," and then he's just kind of using them to like get his story out. But I like, there's a scene at the end. It's kind of it's subtle, but it's kind of sweet, where like he's making his plans. He's going to go here, and it's like now he's like consulting them. He's like, "What do you think? Should we go here? Should we do this?" So just little things like that, you actually get some growth in the characters and the relationship with one another. And I also liked I mentioned how it's very much steeped in folklore, but they also add like an element of science to it. Like, they explain why the trolls turn to stone when they're exposed to sunlight. Their bodies can't process vitamin D, so they calcify, which I thought was pretty cool. And just the fact that like the whole problem was, they had rabies, like that the troll got rabies, so it was a rampage, and that caused all the problems. I just love how kind of simplified it was.
Yep.
Guys, so wait, I have fucking rabies now?
Yeah. That's the other thing that kind of bothered me too. Is like, he got bit, and it's like, okay, something's wrong with him. And like, Hans is just like, put duct tape on it, you're good to go. And like, they visit a veterinarian. Like, maybe she could have helped. Like, they just completely ignored his injury the entire movie, and then like, of course, something terrible is going to happen.
Okay, let's get ratings. We'll go to Kirk first.
Yeah, really solid. I love this. Like I said, I saw it. I don't know if it was the initial American release. I think it was in 2010 I saw it, but got to see it on the big screen. I've watched it several times since. I like it more every time I watch it. I'm at 4 stars.
John.
I agree. This is a 4-star movie for me. There's other Norwegian films I like better, but Troll Hunter is great, and there's nothing really crazily wrong with it. It's a fun watch, definitely.
Mark.
Yeah, I concur. Wholeheartedly endorse another found footage movie. I give it 3.5 stars.
Don't be disrespectful. Like, I understand you trying to throw jabs at me, but don't say you respect another found footage film. Disrespectful. I'm at 3 stars.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Me and Mark have decided to do a lot of content this year and into next year, and it's wearing on my patience. That's all I'm going to say.
John, after the show, I'd like to get some of the recommendations for you on Norwegian horror.
You got it.
Because honestly, like, you could have the guy that played Hans sit in front of one of those waterfalls and read the phone book, and I'd be happy with that.
There's a movie called The Innocents, not to be confused with the classic movie The Innocents, which I think is better than Troll Hunter. I would start with that one.
I'll check it out.
I'm pretty sure he has a database ready to roll. All right, let's hop on the roller coaster of love. Say what? So, peek behind the curtain for this movie. I would say from the ages of whenever this came out, I don't know when, 2006? 2006 to 2008, probably one of my most watched films I've ever watched in my life. I watched this movie a ton. I watched the first 3 a lot. I loved the first 3 movies a lot. But then I grew up, and things changed, and I didn't love it. Mark, you said something to me that I still find is one of the most disrespectful things you've ever said to me. This is the best of the Final Destinations. You are high. That's like being the best, like, turd. Does it mean anything? Probably not.
Who's being disrespectful now?
You know what? That's fair. That's very fair. It was not very nice. But I'm sitting here like, I just don't, like, I love the second one. Why just the second? Why do you that? Before we even get into this movie, why do you hate the second one?
I don't know. I hate the second one. I like the second one.
Didn't you give it a low rating?
Did I?
I think so.
If I did, probably would change that. Like, I don't hate the second one.
Okay, maybe. But continue. So, did everybody see these movies prior?
Several times.
No, I had not seen this one.
You have not seen the third one. Have you seen the first two?
Me?
Yes.
I saw the first one when it came out, whenever it came out. I had not seen any of the other ones until I watched this.
Okay. Wow. You haven't seen the second one?
No.
Shame.
I know. I'm sure there's a lot I missed.
And you watched the third one? That's weird. That's weird.
I mean, the 15-second recap of the first two movies that they give through very smooth exposition in this film, I was covered.
I think you're being disrespectful now. Okay, so overall, Kirk. So if you haven't seen this, then we're going to go to you right away.
Okay.
What's your take?
I was disappointed because, like, the posters, roller coasters. I got it on DVD. Like, the DVD menu screen is all roller coasters, amusement park. I thought this is going to be all Final Destination, all amusement park kills. So I was really looking forward to that, and when that didn't happen, I was kind of let down. The other thing that I was bummed out, not bummed out about, that really drove me crazy in the opening scenes, the operations of this ride are insane. If I was in line behind these people, I would be fist fighting, because you're getting on a roller coaster. You're not boarding an airplane. They go on this roller coaster and they take 15 minutes to they're talking to each other to say goodbye. They're trading seats. They're arguing. Just get on the roller coaster and go. Like, you don't know you're going to die in this roller coaster. Why you're all acting like this is the last time you're ever going to see each other? So that frustrated beginning. Overall, that's just nitpick. My biggest issue with the movie overall was tone. My favorite scene was the scene in the gym with the football players, when they're all just screaming. my favorite line of the movie was the ADR in the background. They're all just yelling about the Bruins.
Yeah.
And you just hear,
Punching
what the fuck is a Bruin anyway? That was my favorite line of the movie. And then the dude gets his head smashed. I'm like, okay, I'm on board. This is the movie that I want to watch. My problem is, you have the main character who's going in between these kills, these silly, ridiculous Rube Goldberg kills, is going through like this serious trauma and depression and guilt and experiencing all these emotions. And so I'm just like, how am I supposed to feel? Like, I'm cracking up because a dude's got his head smashed by these weights, but I also am supposed to feel terrible for this girl and everything she's experiencing. My main thought was, if the two tanning bed girls had been the main characters of this movie and we'd followed their journey through this, perfect. 5 stars would have been perfect, because it would just been spot on the whole way through. But I was just getting whiplash going back and forth between all these death scenarios, which like I said, I've only seen 2 of these movies. Are all Final Destination deaths just based on somebody's placing something precariously on a shelf and it kind of tilting off? Is that every Final
yes.
Final Destination death?
They go in order in which they would have died.
Yeah, convoluted the further you go.
Yeah. But if you get saved, it skips you in the order, but then it comes back.
No, but I mean, literally every death is just, I set this thing too close to the edge. And and I was very shocked to find out that 9/11 was a Final Destination job. That was kind of a weird revelation. But no, otherwise, like I said, I didn't hate it. Like, I was not expecting to enjoy it. I did go with low expectations, and the kills were fun. It was just kind of ridiculous to watch at certain points. But like I said, I think the fact that they tried to give the main character real depth and pathos just was really out of whack with everything else going on.
Yeah, so for your example, when they put the Slurpee on the thing
Yeah.
and it dripped into it. If they wouldn't have done that, something else would have happened to do that. It didn't really
Okay.
matter, but that just helps it move along because like
Mhm.
you can just put a knife and a cutting board that's perfectly placed in there and that thing's gonna wobble.
Yeah.
The wind is gonna catch it and it's gonna go right into someone's chest. These movies are dumb as shit. But they're like let's talk about like the situation. They're in a drive-through. They're just sitting in the drive-through in this like perfectly placed hill, and a car's gonna pop them right in there. Like, oh, we'll trap your fucking asses, and then the car loses control. By the way, who puts a drive-in down a huge slam food like that? Looks like the most dangerous setup ever. That McDonald's or Andy's, I guess it's called, is getting hammered at 2 a.m. every 2
I was gonna say,
a.m.
it's probably not the first person that died in that drive-through.
I also love that the other truck just literally backs into their car. It's like, boom. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like Teddy that's coming down that hill hammered at 3 a.m. is going right into the kitchen. Like, no questions asked. I think the one thing that always works with it is like their kills are interesting. Like their kills are at least somewhat interesting, but they're always just like, oh, come the fuck on. Like it's almost an eye roll, but like, yeah, at least it looks alright. I don't know. I'm just surprised they made 3 of these. I'm not surprised they made 3 of these. Let me correct that. That's the dumbest thing I've ever said in my life because I bet the box office was fine. The fact that it happened 3 times is just hilarious to me. And then it happens, what, 2 more times? Is there
It's
5
been
total?
happening since Abraham Lincoln's death, Cody. I hate to
That's
correct
true.
you,
I know. I'm an ignorant slut for not realizing that it's always been around. But like, I love that this was the one. Like in previous ones, it was just the placement, the order of when it was going to happen. This one, they unveiled a new thing that they found out how these people are going to die from the pictures that they happen to take on the night. So that fan is going to crush into his head. We just need to keep him away from fans. Hey, you like to lift weights? We're going to keep you away from barbells. Like,
yeah, but then the
what?
one dude finds out, like, oh, so it looks like a fireworks going off my face, and he just runs towards the fireworks. Well, here we go.
Oh, I love the one where the guy is like, he's like telling him, he's trying to warn him and like saying, hey, just to let you know, like, we figured out, like, we need to get you out of here, like, things. And then he decides to take these weights and start slamming them. Like, nothing can go wrong. Hey, you're going to die. Fuck you, dog. Like, what? Just like his head smashing. And like, that's like when you're a friend, that's when you just walk away, right? You're just like, I fucking tried. Like, this dude decides to work out even harder now. So I was just like, whatever. It's the gym scene is.
Yeah. The dude doing the worst bicep
Mint.
curls, like, ah!
Oh god, it was just like this guy wrote like this is gonna seem like a shot, but like how Boatman hates football players. The gym scene was written from a guy that hates football players like 100%. Like, fucking meathead pieces of shit. Just like I don't know what they do in there, but this is what they're doing.
Training, but they somehow have a statue of the other team's mascot, like in the gym.
You got to keep motivation, man. Like they're just in there lifting weights, like, but they don't know how to lift weights, so they're just like, oh. Mark, tell me about your love for this franchise. I just need to know it.
Listen, I feel like, we've had more fun talking about the gym sequence, I think, than almost any movie so far today. I mean, just come on. Like, I really like the Final Destination franchise just because I feel like it is just the most fun ever. I think every one of these movies, even when they're bad, and there are bad ones, mainly the fourth one. The fourth one is inarguably a bad film. But they're all still fun.
The guy just had his organ sucked out through his rectum, though. That's not. Don't bury the lead, Mark.
Yeah. I mean, that was a great kill. I'm not gonna lie. It's again, yeah, with also a bad guy too, so it was great. But yeah, like I really like the idea of Death himself as a killer, mainly because because he's not Death is not a thing that is has any or I guess he does have reason, but he's not going after these people with any malicious thing. It's like, oh, they got out of the plane, or they got off the roller coaster or whatever, and I have to kill them because they skipped death. They didn't even really do anything, but they're gonna die nonetheless. So it's kind of I feel like it is kind of just a perfect horror setup. And I think the reason why I picked 3 from all these is I think it's the movie that I think most embodies what this franchise is, where it is just dumb fun from beginning to end. And I feel like, even though I'm not gonna totally get on Kirk a little, because he honestly made a pretty good argument about why there's a bit some tonal whiplash, I don't really feel like it. I just don't really feel like it matters. I think it does kind of fit a little bit, just because I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead is kind of good in this movie. She probably gives the best performance out of probably anybody in this entire franchise.
Low bar.
Better than the bicep curl guy? I don't know.
but yeah, and I'm not gonna argue with Cody too much, where I do think the the big kill, kind of the big kill, event that happens in this movie isn't as good as the second one. The second one, where we got that highway pileup with the logs coming off the truck, that one's the best. Not gonna argue with you there. I feel like the kind of the kills and just kind of the overall kills in this one, I think are the best. I think are just the most fun, just pound for pound. Like the guy getting his head cut off with the engine fan, awesome. We talked about endlessly about the guy getting his head smashed in with the weights, awesome. The 2 girls in the tanning bed, awesome. Even the hardware store one, where the girl just gets her head knocked into a fucking nail gun. Not how a nail gun works at all. Somebody's got to be holding the trigger for the nails to be going through. It doesn't work that way. If your nail gun works that way, you should take it back. It's defective.
Death holds the gun.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and then we get that awesome sequence at the end where oh, by the way, Death wins anyway. We got you all in a subway car, and we're just gonna kill. Awesome scene. Just kind of get you in and out of there in 90 minutes. Fantastic. I didn't really like these movies as a kid, but honestly, they've really grown on me every year. I can't wait for October to get here. Give the whole franchise a fresh rewatch. They are just tons of fun. And this one, for that reason, just think it's the best.
Listen, there are rules. The problem I have with this, after watching all 3 now, I figure I understand the rules. They just fucking change. And I understand, Cody, you're looking too much into it. No, don't tell me the rules and then fucking change your rules. Or if I go back to watch the first or second one, do I get to see where all they die in their pictures? No. That's just convenient fucking fact. And these characters are the dumbest characters of all Final Destination characters. They are the dumb. No, they are.
That's not true.
He's standing there and he goes, it looks like there's a firework going off.
4 and 5, and there we go. We got the dumber characters.
Hold on. I said it the 3.
Okay. I didn't hear you say that. But you said the franchise. That's not true.
The Final Destination, this one is hey, it looks like their firework goes off in your face, basically. Basically, he's at the firework place. Nope, not going to leave, going to go. Just stay. You deserve to die. These people just deserve, hey, I'm trying to save you. Smash head. The girl, what's her name?
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah, she's going to tell this girl, and she's like, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. And a fucking horse wraps around her neck and drags her.
Her sister. Her sister was
yeah, fuck off. No, I'm trying. Every person they come to, I'm hey, you're going to die. Fuck you. Don't talk to me. Okay, you're going to die, man. Fuck it. And I was just again, I don't take these movies seriously. They're not they're an easy watch. There's goofiness. The guy from Disney Channel original movies is the fucking main actor in this movie. Holy shit!
2000s horror is just the biggest collection of blank, forgettable white people you're ever going to find in your entire life. Like, honestly, these people are off camera for 3 seconds, and I forgot what they look like. Just complete blanks, man.
Yeah, her
Yeah, but look at the
boyfriend
Irish.
and the other guy are like just interchangeable. It's
Yeah,
like, hey,
yeah.
I'm a white dude. I'm also a white dude.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah, it's again, didn't have a bad time at all. Because I've seen this movie so many times, and it's the same reason why people like when they were like, "Ugh, Saw." There is something about Saw that just works for me. I don't know what it is. I have fun with it. I have fun with Jigsaw the character. It's fun.
This franchise.
So I'm not going to yuck your yum.
This movie or this franchise is Saw if Jigsaw was played by Rube Goldberg. That's the whole.
That's
the
true. There was just less of a little. I want to play a game. No, we got to find this fucking shit on ourselves. Like, and by the way, the reason this entire thing is the most not believable at all. They are the dumbest characters. Every character is. There's no shot. Zero shot. Any of these fuckers figure any of this shit out. They're dead before it ever happens. They have no clue. They have no consent of anything. They're gonna go get a burger, like at a restaurant. Like, what could go wrong here? No, death is coming for you, idiots. Like, yeah, but we could use a cheeseburger right now. Like in a line with cars. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go lift heavy weight. Like they're just like, no. There's no pictures. There's no anything. They developed all of them too to find out like they're looking through the evidence. It's goofy, but I'm not going to yuck your yum. I understand. Like cheesy, goofy teen horror is just crucial.
I would say that too. I mean, you talked about the pictures. I also think everyone, like all these sequels, have kind of a gimmick to them. I feel like of the third one with the pictures, probably the least egregious of the sequels. I would say, like, I think it adds an element of suspense and a little element of fun to the kills in general. I mean, because I'll take that over the Life Force thing in 5 and I guess 3D in 4. I mean,
let me tell you, nothing is traumatizing as 2. If I see a log truck drive on a road anywhere, I pull over for 15 minutes and wait for that fucker to pass, or I get past it as fast as possible.
I will not let the Descent disrespect stand. That fear comes from the Descent, not from Final Destination 2. Thank you very much.
No, that's not true at all. What are you talking about? The log truck?
Yeah.
I've never seen that. How can that come from that?
In the Descent, it's like rebar that goes through the car and like kills the it's like metal poles. They're metal poles.
I thought it was a log. Was it a log that came through?
Nah, they're metal
I think
poles.
I think he's right. It's rebar. Like
okay.
When that log,
aluminum poles or rebar.
When that log takes out that head in 2,
fucking destroyed. That's still awesome. Like, oh, great.
I will never like the score that comes on or the music that comes on when that happens. I remember I was pulling onto a road, and that a truck went like this past me, and there was a police car not far behind it, and I was just like, I froze. And my wife
heard
was
a little Highway to Hell, like as the log truck was.
My wife was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I can't. We have to pull over." She's like, "What?" Just try. We pulled over. I said, "Well, let's just have a conversation for 15, 20 minutes." And then we were able to drive. It was literally the most freaky thing ever. I'm just like, what? Yeah. But again, I've said before, I'm a pussy. I watched Paranormal Activity 2, and I had to sleep with the lights on for like 2 weeks. So it is what it is. Freaked the fuck out of me. Ratings on Final Destination 3. Mark.
Yeah.
Roller coaster.
Listen, I'm going to admit that, I'm a little garbage for this rating, but I don't really care. Like, I
own it.
This is a 4-star movie. I like Final Destination 3 a lot. It's a great film.
I'm at 3 stars. It's the same with the franchise. I have no. If all 3 of them played back to back, I wouldn't probably get up and I'd watch them all and laugh about how stupid it is. But like, it's no Scream.
Just watch 4 and 5. Just keep going.
Even out.
Probably not. And you've just shit on both of those, and you like this franchise. That's not a selling point at all.
Still fun.
It's like somebody says, "You already saw Terrifier 2, just watch Terrifier 3." Why don't you kick rocks?
You should at least watch like the gymnast death in 5. Like that's one of the best franchise.
I would agree with that. You can find that.
Maybe there's a kill count out there, and I can just watch it.
There definitely is.
Kirk.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible. Like I said, it was probably a little better than I was expecting, but it was still kind of rough and kind of ridiculous. I'm at 2 stars.
And it could go up because let's just be fair, he hasn't watched the second one, so there's
Once I filled all those blanks.
Thank you,
Connected.
John.
Yeah, I think what Mark said earlier is like Final Destination 3 is kind of like the peak of like when it's like getting in the groove. So I'm a 3.5 on this one.
Okay, final movie of the night, The Exorcist. So, yeah, Mark, we're done with Final Destination. He says, "Fuck you, I'm gone." Anyways, so this is a movie that I had a weird relationship growing up with. My dad said this was the scariest movie he's ever seen. So classic me, 10 years old, I pop on The Exorcist. I was like, how the fuck is this the scariest movie you've ever seen? It makes no sense to me. Doesn't. Never registered. I watched it 2 years ago, I think. And I was like, this movie is absolutely incredible. I created the roundtable because of it. Sitting here today, I think this is one of the best movies ever made. Like, I honestly do think that, leaving it now. This movie is absolutely incredible. And I wish I would known back then. Me and Kirk have had this conversation a few times. All the shit we knew about The Exorcist watching it prior, it's not till the end. There's so much. It's a family drama situation going on, trauma that's going on in the home before we ever get to the Reagan, the actual your mom sucks cocks in hell. So did everybody see this movie prior? I'm assuming most people have seen this movie.
Yeah.
Okay. So I always reluctantly bring on either the best movie or one of the movies that has enough talking points so it's not 6 films that are just no one's ever heard of. But I wanted to bring this because I was torn between this and I think The Hitcher. I think I said because I've heard stuff from that, but I had never seen it. But I really wanted to talk about Exorcist. I really want to talk about The Exorcist with John here because to get his horror take on it and where he sits. What's everybody's view on The Exorcist? Pro or con? Just are you
it's
positive?
A huge pro. It's a pro.
Yeah.
They're still trying to recapture that. Have you seen any fucking shitty exorcism movies we've gotten in the last 5 years? They literally made a movie about the making of this movie, sort of The Exorcism this past year. They should stop making exorcism movies because this movie exists. That's my horror take. It's you're never going to recapture this unless you do something totally off the wall. It's that good.
Is that kind of what that exorcism movie is about with Russell Crowe?
That movie is about they're making a movie like The Exorcist, or they're making The Exorcist is basically what they're doing in that movie without saying it. It's called the Georgetown Project. That can be a question for Multiplex. The movie they're making in The Exorcism is the Georgetown Project.
Epic fail. Terrible film. Don't watch it.
Did that come out already?
Oh yeah, it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awful. Fucking awful.
Before that, I'll tell you what. Russell Crowe exorcism movies batting 1,000. So I'm still gonna check it out.
Pope's Exorcist is
500 now.
Yeah. No, I came to this movie like you, Cody, very late in life because I grew up in a household where satanic panic was a real thing. So growing up, this was not a horror movie; it was a documentary. So it was something that I was stared away from, and everybody I knew stared away from. So as I grew up, I became as I worked out my own faith and belief and everything, and I was able to handle that stuff. But it's still something about everything I had heard about this movie growing up lingered for a long time. So I only watched this for the first time maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And yeah, we talked about, like, every clip I had ever seen of this movie and everything I'd been told to be afraid of in this movie happens like in the last 30 minutes. Before that, there's nothing. I mean, I shouldn't say nothing like that. There's nothing about that, but it's all building up to that. And I watched it this time. I realized it's a spiritual movie told from the point of view of a skeptic. And it's almost like the movie itself is trying to find another explanation. You start out where it's going through all, like, you have those scenes. The most harrowing scenes for me are the medical scenes where she's getting the spinal tap, and where she's
the craniectomy when they puncture her
yeah.
jugular. That's the craziest shit.
And that's crazy. And because it's done with, like, it's not done in a cinematic way. Like the stuff at the end, like, oh, I'm watching a movie. During those scenes, the hospital scenes, like, oh, I'm watching this poor girl, like, be tortured to find out what's going on with her. Like, if there's no score, the acting is very naturalistic. It's like you're watching real doctors. Like, it's at that point, it's like a medical thriller, and the movie could have very well been that, but based on how that all plays out. But even the priest is till the very end is like, don't do this. This isn't going to work. That's not the problem. You need to find something else to do. And then you bring Lee J. Cobb in, and it's a cop movie for a little bit. I totally forgot he was in this, so I hadn't seen it in a while. But so there's, like, all these other things going on, and then finally, when everything else is exhausted, then you have your exorcism, and that becomes a story for a very small part of it. But yeah, I just love the fact that up until that ending, you have these two stories. You have this, you have Karis' story, and you have Reagan and her mother, and just what they're going through, and just kind of seeing those two come together for that finale. I agree with you, Cody. This went up a lot for me. This is, I think, one of the best movies ever made.
I think it's interesting too, because the way they do it, like, the mom is trying her best, like, has no clue what the fuck is going on, but, like, every time she's talking to everybody, they're like, nah, maybe this, maybe this. That's what the delusion of her, like, the bed rocking and stuff was. And she's like, I was on the bed was moving, like, you can't, like. And she's like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, like, somebody believe me, like, right? Like, she's in the house, and Reagan runs down the stairs on her hands, like, spits out blood, and you're just like, what the like, you even see it on the one priest, like, the one that dies at the end, like, when that bed rises up to the, like, and he's just like, and Max von Sydow's character is like, I need you to say your part, like, please say, like, it's just crazy. Like, this movie just has it. I gave it 4.5, and this is not like a sorry. I was just like, yeah, that's where it should be. But then I'm sitting there like, this movie might be one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. Like, what they're able to achieve from a child actor on top of that I think messed her up bad from this. Is that true? Is there some? I know there's some backstory on The Exorcist, like past after this shit. Like, there's some weird stuff looking back, like documentaries I've seen on it. But John, what's your take on The Exorcist in general?
In general, I think exactly everything you're saying is 100% right. Like, I think the way it's talked about, you think the entire movie is just this very lengthy exorcism, but really, like, I wouldn't even say it's the last half hour. It's like the last 20 minutes when things, like, really start ripping off. And I think it's just like a slow descent of, Chris McNeil, like, just getting so frustrated. The scene when, like, there's the room full of doctors and she just loses her shit on, like, all 20 of them is, like, such a great scene. And you're like, oh, when does this stuff happen? And, like, when it happens, it's still awesome. But there's, like, a whole hour and a half of, like, really good movie before you even get to, like, the meat, and that's great too. If you're asking for my opinion on, like, was Linda Blair, like, fucked up by it, I believe she was. I think she's kind of, like, worked her way through it now. But yeah, there was definitely a period of time, like, into the 80s where, like, I think she was talking about being, like, pretty fucked up by the experience.
I think growing up, like, I remember, like, seeing her on something, them talking about, like, the story behind the story or whatever, like E.T., like, talking about the Linda Blair, like, situation. I never knew what was going on, but I just heard, like, I could just imagine, like, going through, like, that stuff. I don't know what
It's a very physical performance. I mean, like,
Yeah.
get out. Like, there's a lot.
It's just weird. Like it seems like it'd be easy in the horror genre to do an exorcism film. Like it just seems like there would be, but has failed. So like since this movie's come out, shows I guess how hard it really is to do. Like, but again, I guess you're always compared to the original. Like, I mean, I bet every shark movie that comes out, you're going to be compared to Jaws. So like, you either have to beat it or meet it, and sometimes, and like it's crazy. '70s did two of those like really well. That it's hard to even tackle. Mark, what's your take on The Exorcist?
It's funny you compare shark movies to Jaws, and I'm sitting there thinking Shark Night 3D. Why can't you beat Jaws?
Just shut down the beach, man.
Yeah, I mean, how long ago was I guess now it's like 7-8 years ago. I had been kind of because I think I also used to just not watch a ton of horror movies. It just wasn't really my thing. I don't know. I'm not on the level as I think some like horror people in this community, but I do think I try to watch a lot more now. I try to dip my toe in the genre more than I did before, and I would say around the time I watched this movie, I tried to do that. It started like a lot of I think many times as we all had it. I think I finished my Friday when I was in college, and I thought, you know what, I'll watch like the first 30 minutes of this movie. Just kind of started. It just became my afternoon. I couldn't turn it off. It was amazing. It's you, and it's one of those you think whenever you pop on one of these movies where you hear from everybody, it's great. It's one of the best horror movies like you'll ever see. It probably is the best. And you're like, well, I'll see how I feel about that. And like, and nobody was lying to you. It's exactly that. And kind of like y'all said, I kind of like how normal it all starts. Like just the first 30 minutes is just kind of it's there isn't even any horror building tension at the beginning. It's just, oh, I hear some scratches in the attic, must be rats. Like I'll tell my guy to put some traps up in the attic so we can so we can take care of that. Like, oh, Reagan, she's messing around with the Ouija board. I wonder what that is, what that's all about. Like it's just all like we see all the problem signs at the beginning, but like everybody just kind of takes it all at face value, like, oh, it must be whatever. And I also really love I do definitely get all the like the spiritual themes. I think that's 100% there, but I think this movie also has like a very keyed in look on kind of where our notion of fear comes from, and really it's just about the unknown. Where people are most afraid of is the unknown, because you look at every character we see in this movie, it's if they can explain it in some way, they're not freaked out, they're not scared at all about it. Like all the doctors, they all have an explanation for what Reagan is doing, like, oh, she's got split personality, like whatever, and they just blank face to her the entire time. Max von Sydow's character, he knows it's just the demon talking, it's fine, not freaked out at all. Like on the characters that I think are kind of in between are the ones that are freaked out. Like Karras, like who's someone losing his faith, and he's not also like as experienced a doctor. Like he sees a bit of both, so he's definitely off put by it. And like like Ellen Burstyn's character is just flipping the fuck out just because she has no idea what the fuck's going on. She can't explain what the hell she's seeing in front of her.
I think her performance is so good. And John mentioned this briefly too. I think just you could none of us are going to say like, oh, what if my kid gets demon possessed? But you can sit here and think, what if my kid gets some illness that nobody can explain? And I think she does such a good job of portraying a mother going through that. And again, like I said, if the movie had just been that, it still would have been a great movie. And I think a lot of that rests on her performance.
I just think what they do so well is like the progression of Reagan throughout the movie, of like how she starts and how I think they do such a good job of showing us normal Reagan for the longest time just to see her, and then how she slowly just becomes possessed.
And early on, so much of that stuff could just be like, oh yeah, there's something wrong. You know, she just got something in her mental illness. Some, you know, it's could so easily be explained away at the beginning, and very slowly it gets to the point where it can't be.
I think it's a very interesting too is when like the younger priest is like leaving the house and he encountered Reagan up at the top and says your mom like says hello or whatever, and then he walked out and talked to Ellen Burstyn and was like, did you know my mother passed away? And she's like, yeah. I know. Would Reagan know? No. He's just like, it's like he's not wanting to believe what's happening is happening, but it's fucking happening right in front of him. I think the intriguing is like that. The whole movie works, but that last 20 minutes is really special, like of what they're able to create in there. Again, the way that Max von Sydow has been 70 years old since the 70s is pretty impressive. He's just always looked like the old guy. But when they walk in that room and the atmosphere that they create in there is just the cold, the bed shaking, like how Reagan's reacting to everything, how they think they're getting through with it and they're breaking through and they're like not close at that point either. Like the bed's rising, he's freaking like, no, I've seen the devil himself now. He goes in there by himself and ends up dying, and then like he goes back in and he's like fighting to take his life. And doesn't Lee J. Cobb tell the story like about the guy that like they find him at the bottom of the stairs like dead or whatever, and he does something and then it ends up basically happening to him, which is like because he fights and tells him the demon to take it and it does like it, and he ends up meeting his death that way. It's like the only thought, it's not funny, but the only thought that I always think of at the end Ellen Bernstein's been told she's fucking crazy. Like, none of this shit's happening, blah, blah. Now she's got 2 dead priests in her house, and her daughter's, like, fine. And, like, please explain the bodies. Like, she was possessed by a demon.
The one doctor it does say, like, we could try an exorcism because, you know, some people just buy into the bullshit of it being an exorcism. So let's do fucking exorcism. Like, he's explaining in a way, like, the placebo effect. So the exorcism.
2 dead priests.
That's something else I really found interesting is the scene you referenced, Cody, where Karras goes and has his one-on-one with Reagan, and before that, he's explaining to Chris, you know, well, what are because he's saying, you know, the church will give me approval, you know, I have to get permission, and she's like, well, what's the evidence they would need? And the one specific thing he says is if she starts speaking in a language that she's never heard or studied, so he goes in and she starts speaking Latin. And it's like, okay, there's your evidence. But at the same time, he pulls out that bottle of water, and Demon's like, what's that? He's like, oh, it's holy water. And he whips it on her, and she starts screaming. And he goes downstairs and said, oh, that was just plain tap water. So it's like, you got your hard evidence, but then they turns around and gives you this thing. It's like, okay, no, she's faking. So, like, just that, like, constant, like, giving you an out and explaining things away, even to the very end. It's like, you're never quite sure what's happening.
They even like lift her shirt at one point. Help me, it was carved into her stomach. Like, oh well, maybe we need to take this more seriously. Like, and then he just like walks downstairs and like contemplates the thought. I'm like, oh, the D. He like this one. Like Reagan confesses to be like the devil himself, and I'm like, you saw Reagan normal. You see Reagan now. I'm telling you, something's in there. Even if she's got an illness.
People's faces don't look like that. People's faces don't just turn into that like normally. Nah.
Oh my god! Oh, and the head turn and the spitting of the pea soup out. Like,
oh, when she first pukes on Marin, he just like takes it. He's like, whatever, take this fucking thing. Get rid of it. That's gangster.
Yeah, that one scene, that one part where, like, because there's just so many little where that one where she's just laying there on her side, and the demon's got that blank look, and just that like that Nickelodeon slime starts pouring out of her mouth, and like it's nothing like dramatic, it's just gross. It just looks so real. It's so often.
Well, they do such an interesting job with the overall like where she's like, because it's a child, and the lines that Reagan is said, like the demon is saying, is so like, it's shocking for 2024. Like, I mean, not the most shocking thing that's ever been said, but like, I imagine going to a theater in the 70s and hearing a child say, "Your mom sucks cocks in hell," like, and fuck me, fuck, like that stuff. Like, that's got to be like the holy shit. Like, it's just the more I've watched 70s films, is the more like how far ahead of their times they really were, like, and how much they just didn't give a fuck. Like, it seems like they just did not care, and there was no like approval of like, you sure this is gonna work? Like I always think of like Dog Day Afternoon, like cross dressing the 70s and everything. Yeah, fine, just put it. Like, you sure it's the 70s? No, no problem. Just press on. Like, they just don't care in the set. They just go, and I'm just like, it's crazy. But I'm thinking like this movie came out in '73. Like, what are we? That's crazy. Like, but I imagine my father seeing this for the first time and has to be freaked out because before then, I don't know what would be the scariest film leading up to that point of 70. Like, I don't know. Like, what he got his hands on. Like, if this is the first real horror movie he sees, and this girl spins her head around and spits out thing like demon possession, it would definitely be freaking. I think we're just all adapted to like, especially if you see it in this day and age, like exorcism and scare tactic is nothing. It's more of like a freaky, not scary, but
Well, from what,
yeah.
what I understand, before this movie, like exorcisms weren't something that were like in like the popular lexicon. Like it wasn't something people knew a lot of. Like we know about exorcisms mostly because of this movie. Like it
Sure.
wasn't something that was like freely discussed, like even like within the church, or that just everyday people would know about.
Yeah, I don't know. I get, yeah. You would. I'm not saying you would know better than me, but like you grew up in the time frame. But that's what you'd be grew up basically after this, like where it came out. So I'm not even sure. But that would make perfect sense. Is there a scare like would like leading up before the exorcism, John? You have like a catalog of all like horror, but
Like
like
this,
what would be?
that level of just like hardcore like effects and like language and thematic, like maybe some like underground like pre-grindhouse stuff, but not really. No, like not really.
Yeah, like this is just a launching point
Like
because
there's some
when this
exploitation films that maybe came before The Exorcist that are kind of like hardcore, but like I don't, as far as like well-made scary subject matter, I think The Exorcist is like a touchstone, like
because
a
when
ball touchstone.
is Texas Chainsaw 74? Yeah,
After this, yeah.
yeah. So it's after Wicker Man's that time frame. But
I mean,
yeah,
like I
that's
said, like
even
if you want to go like, I think Last House on the Left is before this, but like, who cares? If that's like an indie movie, you know what I mean?
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I'm just curious. So is that something like I'm like,
Yeah,
where
because
does
I mean,
this?
this got like nominated for Oscars and stuff. This is like prestige
Yeah.
filmmaking. This was a serious movie. This wasn't like John's talking
They
about like driving
they
stuff.
watch The Exorcism and they're like, we've got some room to move, guys.
Yeah.
We can do some things. Black Christmas, Texas Chainsaw the very next year, like,
Yeah.
but they're like, yeah, that's crazy. That's an
Well,
interesting.
it's like what Jaws or like it's to horror what Jaws and Star Wars were to like more mainstream movies. Like it's before and after.
Yeah, Carrie Omen, like stuff, right? And yeah, that's crazy. I mean, interesting. That's an interesting study to see like where like that like slasher had like I guess slasher would be Texas
Well, you
Chainsaw.
can go back there. You can go back into like the 60s. You can go all the way back to like Peeping Tom with slashers and stuff. But even that was like pretty tame. It was like a tame movie, you know, compared to this. Definitely tame compared to this.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on this film besides what we said?
It was said it all.
Okay. Perfect. It's my movie. It's a 5-star. Arguably it's like now in like my top 15 films of all time. I think it's absolutely when I think like my favorite films and then like best films I've ever seen, I think this is an argument up there like the top 10. I think it's crazy. I would love to just be a fly on the wall of the making of this film. Like, I think it's crazy. Like what they like. We're gonna do a possession film, all but we're gonna also make it the best family drama leading to that. Like of a single mom trying to move through life and figure out her child and not get the answers that she needs. I think it's great. It's 2 films, but it's perfect. Kirk.
Yeah, I think I rewatched this 4 or 5 days ago for the show. Before that, it was a 4.5 at 4 stars. When after I rewatched it, it was 4 stars. But just thinking about it, ever since I rewatched it, it's going to be a 4.5.
Perfect. John.
Yeah, I'm not a monster. This is a 5-star movie. It's yeah.
Kirk hates films. Insert.
Often Kirk hates movies. Often duplicated. Never replicated. The Exorcist. 5 stars.
Yeah, I looked up that. By the way, I looked up that film to The Exorcism.
You know, I'll tell you what. The reason why I take that half-star off is because they left Ellen Burstyn out of the room because of the patriarchy. I removed half-star.
Okay. As long as it's as long as you're protesting something, it's fine.
It was going to be a 4.5 for me when she pisses on the carpet. That's just disgusting. No, but I looked at The Exorcism like with. I didn't know what you guys were talking about. I just want that on the record. I know he was in the Pope's Exorcism, like or whatever. I knew that film, but I don't know what you guys were talking about. And I looked and I was like, they sold him on 2 Exorcism movies, like pretty close to release.
It should have just been the same character. I don't know why they didn't make it the same character. That would have been so perfect.
And then Brian and Tim have it at 1 star. That shows me right there. Stay away. One critical, one defender of film, and they both hated it. Mark, what was your rating?
Yeah. Missed it by that much. So we were gonna get the whole panel to do the 5 stars. Yeah, because it's the best horror movie ever made. 5 stars. Yeah.
Yes. Before we wrap, I have our movies for next roundtable that I can announce. I don't do this often, but we can actually announce them. We are going State of Grace. Have no idea. Ed Astra. I saw the Ed Astra.
Ad Astra.
What did I say?
You said Ed Astra.
Ed Astra or Ed Asner. I don't know.
Something. Coho picked it. It probably sucks. I don't know what it is.
No,
I saw The Devil.
Yeah.
Gone in 60 Seconds.
That's a Mark pick.
That's a me pick. Moby Dick.
Which one?
The 50s, maybe. And then Any Given Sunday.
That's a Mark
pick. That's a Mark pick. You're right.
Who picked I Saw the Devil?
Oh, who was that?
I don't remember.
Matt. Quinn.
Makes sense. All right.
Yeah, but that will be on the next one that we're doing. Matt goes, oh, Mark and Jeremy Potter's on that, Brian Michaels, me, Coho. They're like, well, Mark and Jeremy will pick something fun, and I hadn't dropped mine yet. And I was like, oh, I'm fun. I can be fun. So I dropped Gone in 60 Seconds because that's fun. But we'll see you next time on the roundtable. Thank you, John. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Mark. Bye-bye.